Welcome to the Co-Host Bros Podcast, where we break down everything short-term rentals, entrepreneurship, and building a profitable hospitality business. Whether you're a host, investor, or property manager, we share real strategies, real insights, and real experiences to help you scale smarter and grow faster. Let's dive in.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Co-Host Bros Podcast. My name is Matt Codd. I'm here with Austin Spitz, and today we have Jesse Vazquez. What's going on?
What's up, dude? What's going on, man? How you doing, man? What's up, Austin? Thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it. First off, I want to give you guys a massive kudos. How many episodes in there, you guys? What episode am I?
Ooh, you'll be close to 70.
70.
I think 69, 68.
Well, 69 is my favorite number, so I'll take that one. And the podcast, man, the average podcast only goes 7 episodes, so you guys already beat the odds by like freaking 10x, which is pretty amazing. I think that's you guys should give yourselves a congratulations on that. Most people that start podcasts do not get past episode 7, so congratulations, Matt, Austin. It's a big deal.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think our main thing is we get to spend time with people like you so we can talk about your niche, your specialty, what it is that you do. And I think like the big value add for me is like I get to, and Matt and I both get to selfishly ask the questions that we want to ask, and we get access to people like you and their time. And I mean, that's kind of invaluable. You know what I mean? And then we have the platform to get you out there and get your name out. So it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, I do a podcast too. I think I'm with you on that. It's so fun to be able to extract information from people, and I hate the word pick your brain, but like you kind of get to do that with people, and I think it's really cool to find the little nuggets, out of one episode. So everybody out there that's listening to this right now, that's absorbing so much information, just pick one thing that you could do in an episode, that you actually can tangibly do. I feel like Austin, I'm one of those guys that's like always constantly feeding myself new information, and sometimes it's hard to absorb it all. And like when I listen to a podcast now, I'm just like, what's one thing that I could take away and actually implement in my business, and have that mindset intentionally when you're going into something. So I think it's pretty cool, man. Write it down and get to work on it.
Yeah, so let's go off that. I like where you open this up. So like what are like some of the podcasts that you like to listen to from like a genre perspective? Is there like personal development related stuff? Is it STR related stuff? Is it mindset related stuff? Like what's your go-to there?
Yeah, I listen to nothing. I listen to nothing about real estate at all, dude. Like 0.0. Like Bigger Pockets, I was done with that probably, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I listen to more mindset stuff, more of entrepreneurial kind of business stuff. I listen to, I think I'm in a level of space now where I need to be constantly reminded of the hustle that it takes to build something. And though I also hate that word hustle, I think I'm trying to transition to the word transition instead of hustle, because bro, I'm burnt out. I'm 5 years in of like, just go, Alex Ramosi, put your head down 24 hours in a day, work 17. And I've been doing this, bro, for 5 years straight. And I'm barely to the point now where I'm just like, I'm putting priorities like my family, my kids. You got to give things up when you guys are building something significant. That's just part of the game. And I think a lot of people don't think about that, which is why when Matt and I opened up this conversation, we talked about a dream and we're like, what's that actually look like? What does that dream actually look like? And I really, my entire process of being now is like, what do I need to do to get to this position where I'm buying, apartment complexes, and who do I need to become in order to do that? What's my long-term vision? I think those are things I didn't have, dude, coming into, I've been in this space for a decade now. I didn't have an idea where I was going up until probably about a year ago, where I started to actually put things together. I had this mindset coach, and I remember talking to him, and he basically talked to me about, I've never done this before. It was basically visualization. He's like, what do you want to be doing the next year? And I laid it out. I want to be, operating multiple different properties. I bought a bunch of single family homes. I want to get multifamily now. And he's like, where are you going to be at in a year? Where are you waking up? What does the floor look like? Is it the same house that you live in? What are your kids doing? Like, that's the level of detail that he was talking to me about. And I think so many people have this idea of what they want to do, but they're not actually mapping it out. And I think that's an important piece, man, because a lot of us don't know what we want to do. We kind of like have this idea, but it's not so intentional. They're able to like put a process together, what you're going to do weekly to get there, monthly. And that's a powerful place to be, man, especially if you're trying to, get rid of some of the noise and the static and actually have an idea of where you want to go. And I feel like, again, so many people get into the midterm and short-term space, and they're just like, I want to get one property, then it ends up being two, then it being it's three. But what does that actually look like in the next 5 years? Do you want to co-host forever? Do you want to eventually sell your co-hosting property? I'm telling you guys right now, I don't want to co-host forever. Like, I just don't. There's an exit, and I think everybody should be really thinking about. And maybe this is the one thing that you guys take away from this episode is you do the thing, and then now what? So if I buy 20 units and they're 60 units each, and then what? And then you build a co-hosting business to 100 properties or 100 doors, and then what? And it's like always have that and then what question so that you actually know what's actually next in the process of what you're doing. And I didn't do that, man. It took me too long. I didn't have anybody that actually sat down and told me that until I was 8 years into this game and operating at a higher level. And I wish I had somebody tell me that earlier. Really, I do.
Yeah, I can relate to this specifically, and I think a lot of our listeners can as well. Like for me personally, it was like, okay, the first thing is just to eliminate the W-2 and pay my bills. Okay,
Yeah.
so then I got there, and then it's like I just keep going, but like I'm guilty of that as well. So like having the long-term vision and the details ironed out and have everything mapped out, I couldn't really give you a detailed explanation. So I'm glad that you kind of went through that and highlighted it. So that's like going to be one of my takeaways from this episode. But
Yeah.
my question is like for someone like me or one of our listeners that they did and they just created a business that really transferred into a second job.
Yeah.
Like how do you map it out, and how did you work with this mindset coach to where you were like you got it dialed in, and like kind of how did that impact your business?
Yeah. I think for me, it was really understanding where I wanted to go and what I wanted to continue to do. And like I mentioned earlier, I feel like so many of us, myself included, will have these ideas of, like you just said, Austin, like get rid of my W-2 job first, bring in enough income for that. But then like, you don't think about the, and then what at the beginning, you're thinking about just hit roadblock one, get through that. And I think for me, being able to think 3 or 4 steps ahead around the bend, that's where you start to see these levels of entrepreneurs that are like doing things at a higher level at a quicker rate because they're actually able to map out what that actually looks like. I'm part of a group called Go Abundance. Have you guys ever heard of that, Matt, Austin?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And these guys actually showed me a lot of this too, where it's like you break down exactly, and they do it financially. In order for you to get into Go Abundance, you have to, the elite program, you have to make $1 million and like verify it through your business. It's like a whole thing. Anyway, these guys at these levels, what they do is they started to look at like, okay, I want to make 2 million this year. What do I need to do for the next 12 months in order for me to do that? What do I need to do for every week? What do I need to do in that month? Like, so they'll start to break it down when you start to think like that. So for me, it was like my co-hosting business. I wanted to get to, 2.33 million revenue that was coming in every year. How many more properties did I need to bring on? What would that look like weekly? What did my staff need to look like? What did that staff need to look like in a year from now? If we did have 30 or 40 or 50 properties, we're operating in a midterm rental space. And you start to map that out, almost like an org chart, Matt and Austin. If you guys can like think about an organization chart in your head, you have the manager here and it kind of drops down to this. Then you start to map that out in your head. What does my staff need to look like? What is my team? Who's my team leader? What do I need to be doing? Are those uniquely things that I'm qualified to do in my business rather than handling bookkeeping and all the other stuff that people typically do when they're starting off their business? Like you're handling everything. And at a certain point, you have to start to get to a revenue perspective where you can now start to look and forecast what that future is. And that right there, man, is something that I did not do for literally the first 6 years of my of me being an entrepreneur in the hospitality space, business world. And I'm going back to this, like I wish I did this sooner, but I just didn't. I didn't have that kind of mental fortitude or the people around me actually giving me that information. And I think again, it's powerful to have that. And when you're in close proximity to people like Go Abundance, they're called Go Bros. And when you're around those guys that actually have those kind of conversations and stuff like that, I start to absorb that. I start to see it. I start to live it. And that's what's really cool about being in communities and being, in mentorships or whatever it is, like, because you start to see the level of, people that are 5 steps ahead of you, what they're doing, how they're thinking, how they're operating. And then you as a bridge between where you are and where you want to be, you start to adapt those principles. You might not like the person, but they have the scaled systems and the things together. And that I think is what's really, really important about being in these communities and things like that. But being able to map it out, Austin, is like, bro, that's gold. And I think so many people don't actually do that. And that's imperative for the growth of a business.
So I want to say I'm super stoked that you're on.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Actually, about a year ago, me and Austin were actually in Austin going to IMN, and I was listening to your story on secrets while I was going for a walk at 4 a.m. in the hood. That was fun, but it was great. And I've been commenting on your TikToks trying to get you to come in. Austin was able to swoop it in there, but so my first question is that if somebody's just starting and they're like how Austin was saying, and I'm just doing this to get out of my W-2. So do you think that at that point they're just thinking too small?
Bro, I think everybody thinks too small until they get a mentor or somebody that's above them that says you're thinking too small. I really think that, Matt. And you know what? The cool thing about being able to realize that you're thinking small is by being around other people that tell you that you're thinking small. And there's nothing wrong with thinking small. I think it's an important piece of the puzzle that you start to actually have a vision of what you want to do. And the cool thing about short-term rentals, you guys, and I talk about this all the time, is like, Matt, what other business can you go and fucking grab? Can I cuss on here? Sorry, I already.
Yeah, say whatever you like. Oh, you should hear me. Yeah, you're good.
It's like you literally just grab an iPhone, freaking iPhone 8, take photos of a home, list it online, and then start making money like today. Like, what other business can you do that on, bro? Like, it's crazy to think about that. So the barrier to entry in this world is so freaking simple to come into. But again, I think that, you have to make sure that you're putting those, thought process in place that, yeah, you're going to start somewhere, but get around people that are doing bigger things than you. And going back to our original conversation of like, what's that dream look like? You have to start to map that out, because I believe that those things will start to come to you. The people will start to come to you when you actually know what you want to do. It'll show up when people don't know what they want to do or how they want to operate. They're kind of operating blindly. You'll miss opportunities that may have landed or could be in your lap because you're not thinking at that level. And I think that's right there where the power of being in communities like your guys is, or listening to somebody on a podcast, or, getting in these networks or in these circles, or going to meetups, or, waking up at 4 a.m. and taking a walk in the hood, Matt. Like, you'll get some realizations of things in a certain spot. Connect with somebody that same day where you're having a conversation about something that you didn't even think about. And that's what it takes, man. When you start to align your vision, your thoughts, your ideas, you'll start to see things in a totally different light. Imagine, like, this is one thing that my coach was telling me about along the same subject is there's a certain trigger in your mind called the RAS, reticular activating system. Have you guys heard of that? It's basically
I haven't.
It's basically like where, Matt, have you ever went to go buy a new car and you research the hell out of it? You're like, man, I want a Toyota 4Runner TRD Pro. Like, I want that sucker so bad, and I want to get a white one. And the next thing you know, when you're driving around, with your family or whatever, you're cruising around, and guess what you start to see everywhere? A white TRD 2025 Pro. Because your brain is now seeing the pattern of what you're actually thinking about. That is the exact same thing with putting a long-term vision together. You'll start to have these kinds of ideas. These people will come into your life. It'll be a short conversation that might be short-lived in that moment, but it gives you clarity for something else. And if you don't have that actual vision, your brain's not going to find it. I think that's what's so cool about thinking, at this level, and being able to have somebody that's able to give you that information. I didn't know any of that shit at all, dude. Like, I didn't. I thought it was like woo-woo, fake, whatever. But it's not. It really, really is. And the crazy thing is, when you get around people like Pace Morbius or Cody Sanchez, and I've had the privilege of being around like Dan Martell and these like super 100 million net worth people, dude, they all think like that. And they all have that same idea. So it's not like some rocket science thing that me coming in as a guy that only has one property or no properties that just wants to co-host. Like, everybody has this ability, but you just have to start to believe, and you have to do the things that you say you're going to do. And that's what builds confidence. And that confidence is going to allow you to get to that position. But then you got to start to build what that idea, what that dream actually is, and start putting the steps that it takes to get there.
So like, I'm in some of these mastermind groups too. And another thing that I like about it is whenever you kind of when you're around these people and you have, problems, right, that you're trying to solve, that's all we're doing all day, right? And when there's a certain group of people that'll be like, oh, I don't know, or man, why'd you get yourself into that? And you get around these people and they laugh at your problems because they're like, oh, I've already been there. I did that 5 years ago. This is what you do. You do this, that, and the other. Kind of relates back to, I think, Matt, like kind of like touching on how what happened to your house down there in the Gulf, which is like most people would, a hurricane hits, it would shit their pants, and your community and your network of people came together and was like, hey, that shit sucks, but go ahead and do this, do that, do that. I've already been through that. I've been through that ringer. So
sucked, but
it
sucked. It just doesn't suck as bad anymore, but it sucked. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you realize over time that the things, and you laugh at like 3 or 4 years ago, what you were fixated on, that was your big problem at the time. You realize after 3 or 4 years of doing that, you're like, damn, I was so fixated on that. Was so stupid. And that was the simplest problem that I've ever had in business. And now you're solving bigger problems, 4 or 5 years down the road. So I like that kind
Yeah.
of aspect of being in those kind of mastermind groups.
Yeah. Austin, the suck that people go through when you're building your business, you're getting through that, or a hurricane hitting, those are actually where the opportunities are. And I think a lot of us are wired to think like, this is the worst thing. I can't ever do this. Like, I'm not going to be able to get around this. But if you're able to peel back the layers, like there's opportunities in every single part of that suck process, which it does freaking suck to go through. But in hindsight, when you get through it, and Matt, you're probably doing this now. You're just like, bro, I understand how to do this now. I know 1, 2, 3 ahead of time. I'm not worried about the next one. I'm actually prepared for it because there probably will be another one. It's just not, when that's going to happen. And you start to prepare for those kinds of things, and you hope for a sunny day, but you prepare for rain. That's the way to operate, man. And that's what's so cool about being in these spaces and understanding things, that when you get through the suck, you're able to analyze it from a drone view from the top. Like, it's just a totally different direction. But you got to experience it. You have to go through it. And I think a lot of times people want to avoid that pain, but that's where the growth is at. It's in that suck. It's in that pain.
Yeah, it's tough. It's funny because you said something about confidence, and I was going to ask you if you thought that, when it came to accomplishing the steps you want to take to get to where you want to go, is, building confidence, how important that is and how important that was to you. Because I feel like as you keep going and doing things, you're building more confidence than you realize you're building, because you're like, okay, well, I need to build confidence to get my first deal, my second deal. But then it's like, I need to be confident to buy this apartment complex or do this or do that, right? So it jumps levels. So how important is confidence to you? And what can someone do to help them build their confidence?
Such a good question, man. I think confidence isn't just built in business. Like you said earlier, you got up at 4 a.m. and we're walking. If you say you're going to get up and do that every single day at 4 a.m., guess what you're building? That's confidence.
Confidence, right?
Yeah. And I think that's where people lack, is that if you do the things that you say you're going to do, or you say them out loud to your friends and you don't do them, that's where you start to lose confidence. And people don't really understand that. And I think a certain point where you're like, what does confidence look like? You're actually doing the things that you say you're going to do, and you're showing up for yourself in a way that you say you're going to show up for yourself. That's where confidence builds. Like, that's exactly where it starts, man. So if it's like, I'm getting my first property, I got to understand how to analyze a deal. Well, then you better show up to a free webinar to understand what it looks like to run numbers on a deal. Then you're now giving yourself the confidence to go and do that. And in that webinar, they might say, hey, go analyze the first 10 deals, your first 10 deals. Analyze every day, 10 deals. You start to do that. Guess what that builds? Confidence. And it's not just I'm not just saying like, in the business world, yes, there's confidence there, but I think it starts, getting up and brushing your teeth, like all the things that you say you would normally do or that you do, it starts there, man. I think that's a level of, this confidence that I feel like a lot of people don't feel like they have. And it's because they just don't do the things that they tell themselves they're going to do. And that's really where confidence starts to build, and it swells. And once you get it, man, it's this quick to lose, Matt and Austin. You can lose it very fast. I lose my confidence daily, dude. Like every day I lose my confidence, but then I get back to my routine. I do the things that I say I'm going to do, and I show back up. And I think, again, people need to realize that somebody can have confidence today and lose it tomorrow, and then they build back up again. It's not this kind of linear thing. It's something that you constantly have to work on. And that's for me. That's my, my take on it.
I think that's everybody though, right? So there's the moments you have self-doubt and you're just like, oh, the whole world's burning in my head. And then it's like, you got to take a breath and be like, okay, no, that's not right. Right. So, I mean, I totally get where you're coming from, because sometimes I feel that way as well. And then I have to stop and look at myself as if I wasn't myself, and, oh, well, we did this, we did that. Right. So
yeah,
I think that's killer.
And also too, man, like, I think this is where I'm at. And a lot of entrepreneurs that are starting off, or you guys already built a business, but a lot of times people don't actually look at what they've done. And what I mean by that is somebody new coming in today might have analyzed 50 deals in the first 5 days, but they're just like, man, I haven't done enough yet. I'm still trying to figure shit out. Dude, you just analyzed 50 deals like last week. How many people are actually analyzing 50 deals? We opened up this podcast today with you guys doing I'm episode 69. You guys already beat the odds of freaking the traditional 7 people, 7 podcasts that the average person does. Like, that's a celebration. I think that's where I'm at right now, dude, is like being able to confidently say, I've been able to do this. I'm confident about it. Because the part about being an entrepreneur that's like really difficult for me is like, I'm not enough. I'm not able to build enough. I'm not doing this fast enough. I think everybody has those things to themselves. But if you actually go back and look, even if you're just starting, like all these things you've actually done, and we look at this prize or we look at this person, and I do that a lot. Well, I'll compare myself. Pace Morby's going out freaking doing all these, speaking engagements. I've only done 1 this month. He's already done 10. his calendar's full. Cody Sanchez has 1 million followers. I have freaking 25,000 or whatever. So it's like this comparing game, and it's and especially like co-hosting too. Like I know people that have way more units than I do. And I'm just like, man, they got more units than me, but I'm doing things different. Like you're comparing yourself to other people all the time. And I think that is another way to like set yourself down, because I think being in this space now, you got to be very unique about what you do, but also comparison is the thief of all joy, right? We've all heard that quote. And I believe that, man. That's something that I struggle with too. And I think it's part of growing as an entrepreneur and being in this space. So, yeah, man, there's a lot when it comes to confidence.
Yeah, and I think like Matt and I both did, 75 hard recently, right? So like if you're familiar with that challenge, it's a list of tasks that you do every day. I think most people are pretty familiar with it. If you're
Yeah.
not, just look it up. But it's a set of rules you follow every single day. And I think like that, I know it's not, people misconstrue it for a fitness challenge, but it's not a fitness challenge at all. It's like, hey, you committed to the 75 days of these 8 tasks, and you need to do them every single day. At the end of that 75 days, your confidence should be increased, and you should be better than you were before you started it if you were at a low point. And it goes back to exactly what you're saying, is like that things like that are designed specifically to put you in that headspace. So I love that part of it. But I was going to also touch on, have you read the book, The Gap in the Game?
Yeah, dude, I just read that, man. And that's, again, going through what I was going through, and I'm still going through. I'm going through burnout. I think I've talked about this publicly on my podcast, and I'm glad I'm actually talking about it publicly, because I feel like a lot of people that are, have multi-million-dollar businesses never talk about burnout. And if they do, they're talking about it like years later. They're like, bro, I was burnt out and this is what I did. I'm like, I'm going through this now. But yeah, man, I feel like there's a lot of comparison. There's a lot of stuff that to kind of maneuver around and figure out. And I think now I'm in a position where I can view those things and kind of take away what I don't want to do and bring in what I do want to do. That Gap in the Game is such a good book in that context. It allows you to kind of see how far you've got, Austin, and appreciate where you've gotten, and your wins that you have, and allows you to think in a different way. That's a great book, man. If anybody's feeling that comparison game, or like I'm stuck in a certain position, that book really kind of pulls out that what you should be grateful and thankful about growing, and where the difference in those two things actually are. And that's an important place to be, man. And I think for me, going through this now, being able to talk about this, that's a solid book, man. I'm actually reading a book right now called The 5 Pillars of Wealth. Have you guys heard of that? This dude named Salil, I forget his last name. That book is very similar in a lot of ways, but it breaks down like the 5 principles, which is like money, lifestyle, friends, family, like puts everything in these pillars, and you kind of separate what wealth actually truly is. I think a lot of us think it's financial, but it's not. There's like a lot of different things with wealth. In fact, when I heard this ancient kind of proverb one time, and it's like when a man's sick, there's only one thing that he wants, and it's like just to be healthy again. And that was like, it's not to have more money, it's not to have more of, it's like they just want health. And I believe that like there's certain things that are so valuable in life that are important. It's not just financial. But yeah, man, that's a great book. If you guys get a chance to check that one out.
Yeah, I read The Gap in the Game once a year, just because, especially with social media these days and the way society is, it's very, very easy to get caught up in exactly what you said of, oh, Pace Morby's doing this and Cody Sanchez is doing this, but Jesse, I'm only doing one of these, right? So like I try to read it once a year. I haven't read it yet this year, but I think I've read it 3 or 4 times now, just to try and kind of reset my mind and say, hey, remember, like, stay the course and measure like where you came from, right?
Yeah. Austin, do you read just to read all the time, or do you read when you like are in a certain point to be stuck? Like, if you're like, you need.
No, it's one of those things where it's like I told myself I'm not a reader for so long, and then I did 75 hard, and now I kind of stick with pretty much a skewed version of 75 hard, that I do these tasks every single day. And then one thing I just told myself I'm never giving up is the 10 pages. So to answer your question, I read 10 pages every day.
Yeah. Yep. That's good, man. Yeah.
I read slow, so the 10 pages would take a normal person 20 minutes. It's like 45, 50. I got ADD so bad, so it's like I'll read a paragraph and I'll be in space somewhere else, and I'm like, dude, you got to go back and reread that. So it takes me a lot longer. But yeah, I just do like 10 pages a day. And honestly, man, just doing that has stacked up to, like, in my Goodreads over the last 3-ish years, is like 40 books. It's wild.
Good. I know, it's crazy. I never liked reading, bro. Like in high school, like I didn't graduate high school because I didn't like reading. especially about stuff that I didn't care about. Austin, I'm pretty sure I have ADHD too, man. The only thing, when I'm interested in something, I care about it. Like, I'm going to spend my time and energy in doing. I feel like I've been reading a lot more. I started reading because um, I was interested in a subject, or I wanted to like get through a problem, and I wanted to like grab it or extract that information. So I cared about it. But yeah, man, I think everybody's different when it comes to reading. I know a lot of guys are just like, I read 2 books a month. I'm like, cool. What's the last 2 books you read? What are the 2 takeaways? They're just like, I don't know. Like, are you just saying that to, I'm not saying you're saying that, but I'm saying like a lot of people do that, but that's not, it's just, I don't know, man. I think it's weird to, when people are just like, I'm reading books like crazy, but what you're doing, I think is important because you're tracking progress on, you're following this kind of 75 Hard has all these tasks that you're doing, right? That's the same thing we were talking about earlier with being intentional, putting the things that you want to do down, and you're laying it all out, and you're putting your week together. That stuff's so important, man. It really does a lot for the mind. Especially if you're able to complete it or even fail at it and you start again. Like, I've done 75 Hard and I sucked at it. I never even completed it. I've done it like 7 times and never completed it. Not once, dude. Probably because I had a drink or freaking something like that, and that messed it up. And that's usually what it was.
Yeah. For me, it's always the picture, and it's the easiest one, but it explains what's going on in my life, where I could do all the other hard stuff and I forget the minor details, which is take a selfie in the mirror. So on day like 47 of working out twice a day outside in Texas 100-degree heat, all those boxes are checked. I wake up in the morning and it's like, you failed, no picture uploaded. And it's like that actually translates into my life of what's kind of lacking. Another thing that I like what you said is like, there is a component like where I do try to read a few books once a year, and then I'll read other books the rest of the year.
Yeah.
But like Alex Hormozy said it best, and it's something along the lines, I might butcher it, but reading one book 5 times is better than reading 5 books one time, right? If it's that impactful to you, because you're taking all these concepts from 5 different books, doesn't equate to one really good book and really like searing it into your brain. So he said that, and it kind of translates to what you're saying.
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah, I
awesome.
like that.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, man. I think that really understanding a book and the principles and the things behind it, rather than just continuing to consume for the sakes of consuming, especially to tell other people that you're consuming. I feel like that's what social media is to me. It's like, man, people are I just read 40 books this year, and I'm like, cool, what? What? You read 40? Like,
Right.
what is that? What happened right now? What do you mean you read 40 books?
How
What are
did
you, a
you
robot?
apply them?
Yeah,
How did
dude.
you apply them? How did you apply all 40 books this year? Right.
Yeah. But again,
I hate reading.
Reading is it's an acquired thing. I think. What'd you say, Matt? You don't like reading?
I said I hate reading. I'm an audio guy.
Okay.
Like, I listen to a lot of books on tape or on audio, and that was probably the hardest part, was to read every day. I mean, I'm a really good reader. Like, I mean, I have no problem reading. It's just that it just doesn't, like, I'm like Austin, like, and like you saying, like, yeah, you get hyper fixated on something you really enjoy, and you're like, oh hell yeah. So like, yeah, the $100 million series, yeah, I'll listen to my audio while I read them, right? And it's like, that's really the only books I'll read anymore, just because it's like I get something new every time.
And that's better for you to like. I think that's what's cool about audiobooks now is like, I'm actually better with a physical book. I have a hard time listening to. I can listen to a podcast, but it's hard for me to listen to a book. But I think it's easier to absorb if you're able to do that. But for me, I know personally, like, I have to like physically be able to see the words. I've actually done this too, which is kind of fucking crazy, where I'll listen to a book and read at the same time, like a maniac at like 1.5 speed. Because I'm trying to like absorb it. I'm trying to like actually put it through. I'm writing notes out. That's the level of like kind of intention that I want to do it. But I can't, like, I got to be in the mood for reading, bro. I can't just like jump in and read.
I've heard of people doing that. I've actually been told multiple times by people to get the audiobook and then also read it. Do you recommend that? Is it helpful? I've never tried it.
It works for me because I'm like, the way that my brain works, I'm a visual learner, but I also like I'm an audible learner, which is weird, opposite of like, I'm able to follow along. There's something about me being able to see a physical word and like getting the picture and the story together. That's just what's worked for me. But again, this is what's cool is like, everybody's going to have their own parallel of what works for them. And for me, that I don't do it all the time, but I do it sometimes. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend it for everybody, especially if you're buying a book twice. That's a lot of book buying.
It's expensive.
Yeah.
And when they say a different word in the audiobook and you're reading it and you're like, wait a minute, and it throws you off.
What book am I in right now? What's happening right now, guys?
Yeah.
That's funny.
That was a bonus feature.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I love everything that you're saying. And I think that, I think it seems like to me what's really important is to put into perspective when doing anything is the small wins, right? So any kind of small win or accomplishment that you see, you try to put in perspective. Is that what am I picking up what you're putting down?
Yeah, man, that's really it. And I think again, a lot of us will have these ideas of like what we think we should be like or what we think we should be doing. We're comparing ourselves to people that are already like, you know, years ahead of us, and I think that is a thief in a lot of ways. So be able to, you know, like I have a class that I teach every week, and we'll start off the class with wins, and somebody be like, I made phone calls today. Celebrate the fuck out of that, dude, because you're doing something that most people aren't willing to do. And you're putting the time and energy in, and they will tell me like, I felt sick to my stomach when I was making a call to these corporate companies. I didn't know exactly what I was supposed to say. Well, guess what? Nobody always does. Thankfully, you're in a class where you get, you know, feedback on it. But like, that's important, man, to be able to do those things and sit back and to kind of get that accomplishment of, I did this little thing today, which was actually a big thing in hindsight. And that's where the confidence comes in. I don't know, man. I think it's just important to have that. And I think it's always difficult to remember those small things that actually lead you to the big things, because it's all compounded over time, right? You do all the little things, and that's actually the big win at the end, which is that corporate contract that people are looking for, or a relocation company or specialist is now working with you. It's all these little things that you did that compounded over time to get you to that big, you know, that big goal. So, yeah, man, it's the work is in the suck, right? It's in that crappy stuff that you're doing, the painful part. I think that's where the magic actually is. The Gary Vee style, like, you know, enjoy the process. You guys have all heard that before. It really, really is that, and celebrate that little process, because that's what's going to bring in the big wins with consistency over time.
You know, it just dawned on me, like, what really stuck with me when I listened to your episode on secrets was that you were saying that when a corporate person or like someone construction or whatever is coming to stay, right? You're like, oh, so who's your location specialist? Who's this? Who's that? Or you're looking for the trucks and things like that. And it's funny because it's something I take out of what you said, because every time somebody stays at, you know, any spot that I have and I find out they work for like a company like construction or anything like that, I'm like, oh, so who's your, you know, travel person? Like, who's this? Who's that? Oh, can I get their information? And I thought that was like a really good nugget for people who, you know, wanted to get midterm rentals or even get, you know, continued bookings, right, on their properties, because like the way you framed it was just like, well, I'll drive around and I see a truck and I'm like, okay, well, they're not from here, so where are you guys staying? Like, where are you going? So I thought that was very solid advice, and you could probably break that down better than I can, but yeah,
I'm actually going to go through my Airbnb messages right now. Every single person listening to this right now, if you want to build a midterm rental business, Airbnb is a perfect place to start. I have, in the last week, probably 3 people that stayed more than 3 days at my property. And what they'll do is they'll say, hey, I'm so-and-so working for ABC Construction. I'm in town for the next 4 days. We're doing a pipeline in a city that's 30 miles away. And dude, that's exactly what I'll do, Matt. I'll just say, hey, what are you guys doing here? They're working on a pipeline. How long is that going to take? It's probably going to take a month. Why are you only booking 3 days? Well, we couldn't find anywhere for all the other guys to go, so we're staying here for now. That's exactly where you get that lead. It's an inbound lead coming to you. Those are the best. It's like the gold nugget. You don't have to actually go search for it. But then you got to ask the right questions. What are you doing in this market? What brings you on this assignment? Are you working by yourself, or do you have a crew? You know, how long is this going to go? And then this is where the golden part is. You start to kind of curate what you have. If you don't have any properties, you can kind of, they might say, I got 6 guys and we need a, you know, 5-bedroom house. Cool, I have that. This is where you guys could stay. Here's our monthly amount. What are you guys paying where you're at? If they're in a Holiday Inn Express or a shitty Best Western, what is that price? What's the average daily rate look like for an individual to be in one room? Everybody can look this up on Kayak or go on or call to the, you know, call wherever they're staying. The average daily rate is $100 a night, and there's 4 guys staying in there. I'm going to realize that I could rent them a property for $400 or maybe $300, save them money, like $250 a night. So now you're able to actually look at what those people are doing. And the cool thing about it is after they leave here, Matt, that company, ABC Construction, you get a hold of who their, you know, their housing specialist is, or who's handling the HR when it comes to their stay. They're going to be going to, you said you're in Austin, Matt? They're going to be going to Austin?
No, I'm actually in Houston, but that's where I was.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So you're in Houston. So I can now have a relationship with you where I like communicate with other people in the space, and I can say, hey man, you're going to be going to this other company or this other place in Houston, Texas. Actually, I know a dude named Matt. Before you guys go there, I can actually set up your housing for you. That's what a housing corporate provider does. They're actually setting up housing for other people. And then I'd go to you, Matt, and be like, hey bro, you got a 5-bedroom house? Yep, you do. And cool. Is it open on these dates? You're probably going to say yes. And I'm going to say these guys' budget is $7,000. It looks like your property's up for rent for $5,000 a month. I'm going to ask you for a 10% referral fee. They're going to stay there for 6 months or whatever it is. Now I'm providing corporate housing for them going to your place. You're going to be writing the lease and doing all this stuff with them. I'm owning the relationship that I have with this person. You're going to be paying me my 10% over the next 3 months, 6 months, however long that time frame is. So I'm winning. I'm taking care of those clients. I'm going to continue to serve them the next market they go to. I'm making money from you because I'm making that referral fee, right? And then you, as an operator in Houston that's in my network, is now making your money from that stay for 3 to 6 months or however long it is. That's the cool thing about building this business. I can have 10 different people that I've talked to over the last 10 months. They're all going to new markets. I'm owning the relationships that I have, and I'm making $3,000 per person per relationship. Dude, stack that up over time. That's $30,000 a month that I'm making from just going in and having other housing that everybody in this market has. This is why this kind of corporate space or this midterm rental space, if you're doing it at this level, can bring you way more money in the long term because you're owning the business, you're owning the contacts, you're not relying on Airbnb to have inbound leads that come to you. So now I actually own that market share that is mine. And I think that's where the power is, that you're not reliant on a platform like Airbnb or Furnish Finder to supply you with clients. You're creating your own book of business in the certain markets that are going. That's where co-hosts that listen to what you guys are doing, that's where the bread and butter is, if you think about it in that big picture type of way. And most people, going back to thinking small, don't think that big. And second off, aren't willing to put in the work because it's not passive. It's an actual legitimate business you have to stay connected with. It's referral based. It's relationship based. And if you kind of couple all those things together, you can build a pretty substantial business by the inbound leads that are coming in, especially for you, Matt. You're in a market that has a ton of people that come in and out of. Houston is as a hub for that. It's continuing to grow. Bro, you can build out, if you're intentional about building this out over the next 6 months, I guarantee you that you have people that are staying with you for 3 or more days that are probably have the potential to, bring you, 20K, 30K over the next 6 months or more by just doing relationship-based business with them. And that's a powerful place to be in, man, if you start to stack that up.
I don't think a lot of people realize that. I think a lot of the people, at least that probably listen to us, are trying to go co-host. I think they're more like trying to hit vacation markets and don't realize that you can make money in the metro markets. And you can make money in the vacation markets too. I mean, I've midterm vacation houses in vacation markets and markets where they're building houses and building things, building infrastructure, right? So, I mean, I don't think a lot of people realize that. There's more than one way to play the game, right?
Yeah, well, I think what people know is what they know, and they don't usually search for anything outside of that unless regulations hit, and all of a sudden you're like, damn, I got to think different now. And I think, again, going back to this conversation early on that we had, is if somebody could take one thing away from this episode, what's worked in the past isn't necessarily going to work in the future. And you have to make sure that you're thinking about, especially with Airbnb and these new changes and these new adoptions and the way things are moving, you have to be able to think ahead. Like we just talked about this earlier, 3 steps ahead, look around that bend. What do we see happening now? Houston has the regulation stuff that's hit around. Austin has that. There's a lot of markets. I'm in California. One of my markets, my best market, Modesto, California, doesn't allow short-term rentals. I pivoted years ago. Thankfully, I did. So it's like, I think you have to be able to be.
Modesto was a good market,
bro. It was fantastic.
I was born in Merced.
Oh, were you really?
Oh yeah. I grew up in like the Bay Area.
Oh,
I just moved out of California like 3 years ago.
Oh no way, man. Yeah.
Modesto, huh?
Dude,
wow.
Merced's a good market, bro. Merced
is it?
Yeah.
Fresno. I know Fresno's not bad.
I got property in Fresno. Merced's good because it has the college. It's got the hospitals. There's a lot of sick people in Merced. Like there's a high acuity. People have like, multiple different like CHF and COPD, and there's just not enough nurses to meet the demand. Merced's just like a little tiny hole in the wall.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of people there, but they have the college, and it just check marks all the boxes of like what a good market is. And it has the college, it has the hospitals, it has the ecosystem, it has the type of, aging population. It's a dust bowl in this market. So there's a lot of potential. I think people also don't realize that you could be in a market that might be in the middle of Iowa somewhere that has 50,000 people in it, and there's not enough clinicians there. And you can build a network or a business off that. Dude, I have a student that worked in Ohio. Those big ass windmill companies that just have they're huge. You see them they're in Livermore, dude. When you drive into
it's all through a Fairfield and stuff like that too.
Yeah. So this kid, I'm calling him a kid because he was 22, worked for a company that did that. There was no housing in that market, and there was these guys. Like there was 30 guys that were coming every 6 months to come into his market. he built a relationship with the higher level person at his job, went and arbitraged property, and then now has a business that's over 6 figures, doesn't work for that company anymore, and just supplies the housing for all the people that are coming in. Like, there was one opportunity in that one market that dude's seen, got the housing. There was no housing for him to get. It was a small little market, and he built it off of that. So I think, again, man, like, there's a lot of perspective where people, if they're able to shift what they know, what they don't know, into what they're trying to understand and where they could see the value, that's where you start to solve these problems that companies have that a lot of people don't realize. And then you become that housing solutions provider specifically for that company or agency. And I think people think they need to have like 50 companies, but in reality, you can have 2 or 3 companies that you work with in your own backyard, or maybe even one that actually supply you with a pretty decent living. And that's the way that I built it, right? That's the way I've done it, and countless other people are doing it across the space. But again, there's probably somebody listening to this right now that has an opportunity in their market right now, but just isn't aware of it because they haven't been paying enough attention. Going back to what we talked about earlier with the reticular activating system of our brain of seeing these potential, seeing where there's opportunities. If you don't start to understand it, you're not going to see it.
Yeah, I bet you were stoked when they built that college too.
Yeah.
My brother works there.
Oh, does he really?
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
still
dude.
there.
Yeah, man, it's hot today. It's 101 out here today, so he's probably out there sweating it up.
Oh yeah, he works in he's an agriculture teacher, so I'm sure he is.
He's outside, man.
Sorry about that, Austin.
No, you're good. I was gonna say, like, so for somebody that maybe is a co-host, they have, let's say they're in a metro market, they're managing 10 listings, and they have not even entertained this way of doing business. What do you think's the best way for them to potentially get started, or should they get tapped in with you, or like what would you recommend if you were in this situation?
Yeah, I would get educated in this space because it's different and not a lot of people talk about it at this level. And I think where I talk about it's kind of a little bit of higher level. I'd go watch my YouTube stuff. Head over to YouTube and just type in Jesse Vazquez. I'm sure I'll pop up there, or just type in midterm rentals. There's other people in the space that are doing the same thing. But I would be looking at, you guys, we just talked about inbound, right? Inbound referrals. That who's come over or who's staying now at your property more than 3 days. Ask those questions. What are you doing here? Are you on assignment? What job, what company you're working for? How long are you here for? Do you guys do multiple different jobs in different markets? Is this something that can be prolonged or extended? So now you start to understand who's actually coming into your market. If you're listed on like Furnish Finder or one of these other platforms, you can actually connect with what's called unmatched leads, and those are people that are looking for property in your market. Pick up the phone and dial them like a crazy guy and say, "Hey, I have housing. I see that you're coming from ABC construction company. How long are you guys on assignment? Have you found housing yet? How can I accommodate you guys? What problems have you been having?" And then you start to actually create, just like we talked about earlier, like kind of like an org chart, a roadmap of how I can actually serve this person or this company. And you start to get the details of who's actually coming there, why they're coming there. So you're keeping your ear to the ground in your market, knowing what's happening. And I think that right there, Austin, is where most people get stuck. They're always just like, I don't know who to connect with. I don't know if there's a person coming in. Start with your inbound, because I guarantee you that there's probably people that are staying with you right now that are staying for longer terms at other places, and they just found your property's a 3-night gap because they have to fill something else. Like, this happens all the time. And that's where you have to be proactive by asking enough questions. And that's going to allow you to get to that next position where you're like, okay, now I can call this company. I can go on LinkedIn and search, Matt Codd, and find out what company he works for, because I already know now. And I can say, hey, I just talked to Austin. He talked about housing. He just gave me your information. I'm messaging him on LinkedIn and saying, I'd love to talk to you for about 5 minutes about housing. I just got off the phone with Austin. That right there, what I just said right there is gold. Now it's instant communication. Austin, you know who Matt is. So you're going to be like, I got to talk to Jesse. This guy knows something that I don't know. If I'm cold emailing somebody with no name, I'm not going to get anywhere. How many LinkedIn messages you guys get from random people that are just like, hey, I got a real estate 101 and I would like you to join us. We're going to have a webinar tomorrow. You can give a shit. You don't care. You can care less about it. But if somebody messages you saying, hey, I just got off the phone with Austin regarding housing in Modesto, California, we have a really cool opportunity for people like your company to stay at these properties for a reduced rate. If you have 5 minutes, I'd love to talk to you. How does tomorrow at between 2 and 5 work? Like, that's all you got to do. And I think a lot of times people realize that there's just a lot more steps to it, but it's literally that simple. It's not rocket science.
Yeah, and like to your point, it's not as daunting as like cold calling, to your point, because people aren't just slamming the phone on. You're literally calling them to help them, and it's already a warm lead. So
Yeah.
literally you just have to get on there and dig a little bit and kind of solve their problem, but they're already looking for you. So like I think people get overwhelmed by like, hitting the phones and dialing and people tell them, F off and stuff like that. But I feel like I've never done it this way, but they may happen, but they're few and far in between because they're already looking for housing and you're just trying to solve their problem, right? So it's not as scary as like you just doing cold outreach.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, it's sales. So like you have to sell your ability to solve problems. And this is a service-based business. You have to have a servitude mindset. You have to be able to think like, how can I actually serve the people that I'm talking to at the other line? When I first started, Austin, I was like, dude, I just want to make a bunch of money. That's all I cared about. And I met a woman. Her name was Irene. She lost her home in a big fire in Modesto. I walked her through our property and she sat down at the dinner table and she just started bawling. Like we sat down and we were talking. She was with her husband and her 4 kids. 2 of them were there. And she was telling me about how they're in 2 separate hotel rooms. The one thing that they did every night when they lived at home was they had dinner at a dinner table together, which the only family that probably still does that, by the way. I don't think people do that anymore. But she was bawling like these big, salty, heavy tears. And I'm just like it hit me really hard. I'm like, holy shit, I've been like chasing dollars when people have like these real issues. They've just lost their home. And I'm like the bridge between the gap of them getting to the, like normalcy, what they used to know. And I'm providing a service for them. And that moment, like I'm getting goosebumps talking about this right now. When that hit me, like my mindset went from not money to servitude. How do I actually serve these clients and actually give a shit about them and care about what they're doing? Dude, my business was like a hockey stick. It was like pretty good, decent cash. Then all of a sudden started just going up because I was now building a service around the people that actually needed it. And that can even go back to, I'm saving a company money. What I'm actually able to provide for them. Do I have accommodations that are actually preferable to a travel nurse with blackout curtains and noise machines and things that are actually going to be useful to them? That's what service-based business is. Like I'm creating those opportunities for those people. And a lot of times, Austin, the people that I'm talking to, they don't know what problems they have. And I have to try to extract them from them. They're not just going to be like, we have problems finding housing. They're going to say, we can just go on Airbnb. Well, why go on Airbnb when you can have somebody that literally scouts and does all the work for you? How can I make their job easier? And that's what your thought process should be getting into this type of business.
Yeah, I think that you make a good point. Like when your true intentions are not to make a sale and it is to genuinely help people, the sales will come organically because you're not sitting there pitching, oh, well, we only do 20% and X competitor over here, they do this and they do that. And they're like, at the end of the day, they're like, well, I don't really care what you do or what, like, just how are you going to solve my problem? So I think you, like, to your point, exactly, you said your business hockey stick. And I think I've seen that in my business as well. When I just err on the side of like, hey, let's just get on the call and see if like I can help you first before I even start talking about my business, right? So like, man, I love that, dude.
Yeah,
that's killer. That's just great. And if you need anybody in Houston, just let me know. No, I'm just
yeah. I got out there, man. I love Houston, except for the humidity, but it's a cool.
Why don't
spot.
you move? Why don't you move to Texas like Matt? And we're in Texas.
You get used to it, dude.
Fuck no, I don't want to get used to that shit, dude.
The beaches aren't the same though. SoCal beaches are great.
Yeah, I like Austin. I like Houston. I do. I don't think I could trade up for it, man. I don't know. I like California too much.
What part do you live in?
I'm in Northern. I'm where Matt used to live, dude. I'm like I don't know. I live in Houston, Matt, which is over like it's in the country. You know where Houston's at? It's like outside of
California. Houston.
Yeah. Houston, Hughson. So it's basically like you got Merced, you take Santa Fe all the way down, you run into another country town. That's where I live. It's a little country town.
By Los Banos, like that direction?
No, it's down towards
the other
Turlock.
direction.
Yeah.
Okay. I know where Turlock and my aunt used to live in Turlock.
Yeah. So I live like 10 minutes from Houston, but out in the country. And it's a little bedroom community, like 7,000 people here. My kids can like freaking ride their bikes to the grocery stores. Like it's like a little tiny town like that, dude, where it's like
cheap.
Where I grew up. It's not cheap, but it's like everybody here is like knows each other, looks out for each other. And I don't know, man. I think I do need to get out of this market eventually, like go to a bigger city. But I don't think I'll move out of California. Probably San Diego or something as well.
I lived in a small town when I was in California. After I moved from the Bay Area, I lived in a little tiny town called Dixon. Like
I know Dixon. Yeah.
So like 18,000 people, but I mean, they probably built like, I don't know, 10,000 houses since I moved. It's going up.
Yeah, it's a big little town now. But yeah, man, it's the Central Valley is like, I talk to people about this all the time. If you can invest in California, you can invest anywhere. It's one of these markets where like, I'm not going to go buy something. I mean, I did buy stuff in the Bay Area, but like it's killer deals. Or Central Valley is like, you could still get a pretty decent property and make cash from it, even with 7% interest rate like today at your 350,000. And then it's going to appreciate over time, dude. Like in the next 10 years, if I buy something here for 350, there's no reason why it's not gonna be worth 600. Like it's just not in 10 years. Like it just will. So this market is continuing to appreciate. I like the Central Valley because of that specific thing there. And there's a lot of opportunity in these markets. And again, I think people don't realize that they have opportunities in their own markets if they start to like, start to go through the layers of what actually brings an opportunity to a market, which we can talk about here right now if you want, guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's your time, man. Go ahead, let us know. I mean,
yeah. So I'll just give you guys a quick story. You might have heard this, Matt, on the Secrets podcast. There was a work truck. There was a new Dave and Buster's being built at the mall here, Matt, in Modesto. I don't remember what store it was, JCPenney's or some shit. They were redoing it. There was work trucks out there from Louisiana. So I drove by them, took a picture of the truck like a maniac. And then I went home and I called the company and I was like, hey man, I see that you guys have, it was a dude that answered, connected me to a woman. And she worked in the HR department. And I said, hey, I saw that there's work trucks out here from, your company. I'm calling from California. I just drove by. I'm curious about like where your employees are staying. After asking enough questions, she started telling me that they were staying at a Holiday Inn Express. They were paying $200. They had a discount of it was regular was $200 a night. They were paying like $160 a night per person to stay in a one bedroom, or not a one bedroom, but a studio in Holiday Inn Express with taxes and stuff, pretty close to $200. They had 5 engineers that were staying there. So if you think about that, that's almost $1,000 a day times 30. So they were paying like 20 something $1,000 a month. And I was like, hey, I actually have a 5-bedroom house 0.2 miles away from where these guys are working. This is where my service brain comes in. I see that you guys have work trucks. We actually have space in the garage for 2 work trucks. And in the back, there's actually a gate that opens up and you can park in the back through alley access because I know those trucks have a lot of value in them. And I don't want people to steal anything. We actually serve companies just like yours. And I went and told her, as I was talking to her, dude, I was looking up Holiday Inn Express, what it actually cost per night. And I was like, would you guys be willing to, if I was able to save you guys over $15,000 a month or over $10,000 a month, would you be willing to stay at a property that I have? And she's like, she kind of laughed. And she's like, how are you going to do that? I was like, well, we have a 5-bedroom house. And I just told her. And she was like, let me talk to the guys and I'll get back to you. Some guys like having their own space. This was a 5-bedroom house. There's 3.5 bathrooms in the house. So I told her, I was like, pick your 3 favorite guys. They can have their own bathroom. The 2 that you don't like, they're not going to have a bathroom. Like, but at least they'll be in one space. There's a pool in the backyard. They can hang out in the back. Like there's places for them to park their truck. And within 45 minutes, she called me back. She said, hey, they would love to go walk the property. I met the dudes at the house. They walked through the house. They were cool. And they were just like, yeah, we would love to stay here. We're all staying in a 100 square foot hotel room for the next 3 months with the potential to extend. And like, I just don't want to be in that. And I was like, cool. Like I got you guys. So for 10 grand, I got them into a property, a 5-bedroom house when they were going to be paying 23, 24,000. So I already automatically saved them thousands of dollars just by doing that. And the reason why she didn't book an Airbnb is because she couldn't. I actually asked her, I was like, how come you guys don't just book Airbnbs? And she's like, well, we couldn't find anything that fit the amount of people that we have to stay in to stay there. And because there's gaps and things in between, and she didn't want to be moving them out and in. And this is where now, to this day, dude, this was 3 years ago. To this day, I still work with that company when they go to certain markets. Like we'll go find their housing for them. And that right there is what I think is really important, is that you start to build a foundation of who you're serving, why you're serving them, what are their needs. And now, even to this day, I'm still working with that same company when they go. In fact, I just went into Pittsburgh 6 months ago. I ended up going into our community, pulling people that had property in Pittsburgh, and they've been staying at that property and those properties now for the last 6 months. They're actually going to be on assignment in that market for a year. So, dude, there's a lot of potential. I'm making money just from that connection of that relationship. Nothing more than that. And I think, again, people don't realize that if you start to think this way, there's a lot of opportunity that comes through. And again, going back to our original conversation at the very beginning of this, people will walk away with like now seeing a work truck parked out in front of a construction zone that might have different plates in a different market. That's your opportunity right there that you didn't see before this.
Oh man, that's crazy. I mean, that's great. I mean, just the whole, I mean, yeah, that is the story. I do remember that story. Yeah. And I mean, if you're not going to go get it, you're not going to get it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the way it goes.
Yeah. You got to have that mentality of like, I'm going to build something. But again, like It's not hard to pick up a phone. It's scary. And that pit in your stomach that you feel calling these companies, if you don't feel that when you're first starting off, like you're not doing something right. In fact, that right there, Matt, is where I'm at in my business right now. If I feel nervous about something, I need to lean into that. That's what's most valuable and most important. A lot of us, most people, including myself, will shy away from that feeling because we don't want to experience it. It's the pain, right? It's the suck. That's where you need to be leaning in. That's exactly what we've been talking about this entire hour, is leaning into that.
Yeah, I like have a quote up here on my computer by Jerry Seinfeld, right? Billionaire. The right way is the hard way, right? And I think that's exactly what it says. If it scares you, if it's that's just something that you need to further lean into. If it scares you, you should do it, right?
Yeah. And that's the maximum confidence builder right there, Austin. If you're able to do the thing that you're scared of doing, you show up and you're like, damn, that wasn't that bad, or I learned a few things from it. Dude, that's where the confidence level just continues to get bigger and get bigger. Like, I hate getting on stages and speaking. I fucking hate it, but it's not for me. Like, I realize that I was putting myself in that scenario where it's like, I'm going to get up. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be cool. I'm going to be the cool guy talking about midterm rentals. Dude, it's not for me. It's for people that are out there that are trying to learn more and trying to build for themselves. Like, that's what actually excites me. And the second that I was able to turn that mentality from like, it's not about me to about service, about other people. Like, that's why I was put here on this earth. That's what I understand. I'll get up on a stage scared as hell and do it anyway. Like, that's just, it's part of the game. But it's a powerful confidence builder and a powerful way to continue to build in a space where, you don't think you have it already and you don't think you are good enough at it. But again, I think that it's really powerful to put yourself in those positions because that's where you start to build that credibility, that, confidence that you didn't know you have, that you do have. And you start to find what's, what really actually benefits you and why you're doing what you're doing. And I think that's an important place to be as well, man.
Yeah, I think it also comes like you have to kind of retrain your brain that way, right? Like you instantly want to think, okay, how can I get out of this? Like this thing came up and I should do it, but
Yeah.
how the fuck can I like avoid it or get somebody else to do it? And you got to retrain your brain and be like, dude, this is gonna suck. I'm gonna be nervous and I'm gonna be sweaty, and people are gonna might laugh at me. And my joke's not as funny, but it's like, okay, well, I just have to go up there and do it, and it's never as bad as it is. But I think you have to like kind of retrain your brain to look at that as opportunity, kind of like you talked about in the beginning of the show.
Austin, most people do this with business too. They have, many of you, maybe you guys right now have a person that's working with you that's been slacking for over a year, 6 months. You're scared to have that conversation with them because you don't want to hurt their feelings. You don't want to make things bad. You don't want to have to go find somebody new. But that's what most people don't realize. Like, you have to be able to force those conversations to happen and want them to happen to either fix it or move on to the next person. Dude, we do that same thing loop over loop over loop. And that's where a business goes to fail, when you're not willing to actually meet those conversations and actually have them. Most people have a people problem. They don't realize that. It's not their business. It's the people that they have that are in them, that they're avoiding the conversations that they should have had a year ago. And bro, that's how businesses go into the dumps. Like, everybody out there listening to this right now may have employees they're in that same spot. That's where your business is going to go to die if you don't take care of those things now. And it's doing those hard things. Like, that's hard. That's the suck. Part of running a business. You might love somebody personally, but work ethic, they suck. And dude, you got to be thoughtful on that. You got to know what you're doing. And it's uncomfortable. It sucks to fire somebody that you care about. It sucks to put somebody out of a job, but at the end of the day, it's like, you got to make sure you're doing what you're doing so that your family can eat, and they got to be doing what they're doing so that, they can do the same thing. But I had a lot of problems with that for the first 5 or 6, 7 years of my business too, man. And I started to just face them head on because I knew I had to. Like, you can't avoid things because they don't change. They'll get worse.
Yeah, I think your success is directly related to like your ability to have those uncomfortable conversations that need to be had. And I think like even Andy Frisella, like I like listening to him a lot, and he was even saying like he still doesn't even fucking like doing it. Like he doesn't enjoy it at all. He just has so many reps doing it, and he knows that he has to continue to have those rough conversations over and over again. And that's just kind of one of the reasons for his success. Yeah, man, I love it.
I agree with you.
I got to listen to that. I haven't listened to him in a while, but I listen to him sometimes to get pumped up. I would love to be in a fly on the wall when he's having those conversations with his team. That'd be cool to listen to.
It doesn't get easier. I agree with him. I mean, I've probably fired over 100 people in my corporate career, and it doesn't get any better. Like, it just doesn't.
Have you guys ever watched that? Matt, have you watched that movie with what's that guy that has the Up in the Air with George Clooney?
Oh yeah, with the miles, when he's like got all the miles and stuff. And
yeah, he literally he goes around firing people, dude. That's his job.
Yeah. He was the firing guy. Yeah,
dude, that's such a good movie where he talks about like, this is being fired is one of the best things that will ever happen to you, but you will never realize that in the moment. You'll realize that in hindsight later. Every time I've ever been fired, bro, it was like the best thing on the planet. Because like I got a better job and I thought like I realized what I was doing wrong, and like people will take that and be so negative with it. But for anybody that hasn't watched, I love movies and stuff. That's such a good movie to check out and kind of get that frame of reference for people that fire. Like that's what his job was. Like was literally firing like thousands of corporate employees.
Yeah, wasn't he replaced by like the Zoom firing or something? They started firing people over Zoom.
Yeah, like that was before Zoom was even a thing. They're like on Skype, and he was like mass firing all these people at the same time.
Yeah,
but
he's like
cool
the screen in.
He's got to be getting paid. He's got to be getting paid. I haven't seen the movie, but you got to be getting paid a lot to do that, right? Because you're doing what other people don't want to do, right? So he's coming in and doing that. I don't know. I haven't seen the movie.
He'd fly around the country to like different organizations, just fire people.
Yeah. He would that's literally his entire job was like flying around everywhere. But that movie was cool because what he was doing was avoiding being home. And like you kind of get it at the end of the movie where he was like, that work consumed him so that he didn't actually have to face himself. But I think a lot of entrepreneurs do. We stay busy a lot of the time so we don't actually have to face the demons that we have internally. A lot of us do that personally. I know that I've been through that where it's like, I'm trying to keep myself busy because I don't want to deal with my anxiety or my stress or whatever it is. And that movie's like a real cool kind of full circle, moment where he's like, comes back home and he's just like, shit, I've been avoiding this stuff for a long time. But man, it's cool when you get that realization and you get that, that kind of self-understanding of your own reasons of why you do things. Like, bro, it's powerful to be in those positions and space and be self-aware enough to like actually know, what's happening. Sorry, I'm getting
he was doing the shit people avoid to avoid the shit he didn't want to do. That was the whole thing. Yeah.
Super good movie, man. Check it out, Austin. You're gonna love it, dude.
We'll do it.
Were you gonna say something, Austin? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh no, I think I'm all good, man. Do you have anything else? Anything else we want to cover while we're here? I mean, I think I'm all set, man. I really enjoyed the mindset piece and obviously the midterm rental piece as well. But I'm a big mindset guy, so I mean, I appreciate you coming on, man. That was tremendously valuable, and I think most of our listeners, for the most part, we get in here and we talk about short-term rental, midterm rental, certain avenues, direct booking, all these niches. So I really like how we touched on mindset, and we have been touching more on that lately because all of this doesn't really matter if the forefront, if your mindset's not there in the beginning, because you can read all the books, you can go to all the conferences, but if you don't have that level of confidence, if you're not the ability to take those steps, and your mindset's not there, none of this even matters, right? So I just enjoyed that piece of it. But yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on. I think I'm good, Matt. What do you think?
I'm in awe. It's fantastic. I would love to do a part 2 with you someday. I think, but yeah, hey, thank you. I really appreciate you coming on, and you just started firing shots before we even hit the record button. So,
no, man. Well, I literally just had this conversation like yesterday, going back to, just stuff. So I was excited to have this conversation. I learned a lot of things from that conversation sitting here with you guys. And I appreciate you guys for reaching out. I don't really go on TikTok ever. I have a team that manages all that. So Matt, you were sending a note to nobody that didn't even tell me that. But yeah, I love jumping on podcasts and having conversations. And I hope the audience appreciates you guys for doing this, like the generosity of your hearts doing it, and give you value. And if you guys haven't already, go like and subscribe to this page or whatever you guys are listening to this. I think it's important so that you guys can continue to do episodes and get more people on this episode, on these podcasts. And bro, keep doing what you guys are doing. I think it's awesome. And everybody out there that's building right now, keep building. And Austin, you're absolutely right, man. It starts with mindset. And I think it ends with mindset too. And a lot of that is all the work is in between. And not only that, but owning a business is the ultimate self-development tool on the planet. You're going to be super stoked one day, and 6 hours later, you're going to have your hands in your, palm of your face, and you're just like, what the hell is happening? That's just part of it. You're going to learn a lot of stuff. So make sure your mindset's in the right place and you're around the right people, listening to the right stuff. So appreciate you guys, man.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Wrap it up, Austin.
All right. Thank y'all for listening. Peace.